From WXXI News, this is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. Our connection this hour is made on stages all over the world for the last 55 years. An internationally acclaimed dance company, often best known for The Lion King, is being celebrated as it hits the 55-year milestone. And as you may know, the company, Garth Fagan Dance, is based here in Rochester. We talk about the company's history and the future of Garth Fagan coming up later this hour. Before that, a new University of Rochester Medical Center study offers options for cancer patients navigating a kind of brain fog that's often known as chemo brain. We're going to talk to WXXI health reporter Racquel Stephen along with a cancer survivor. But first, ticks. Our colleague Catherine Wheeler of North Country Public Radio has been reporting on what experts say is going to be an early and a heavy tick season, largely due to climate change. And we're going to welcome in a couple of guests now. Catherine Wheeler, St. Lawrence Valley reporter for North Country Public Radio, part of the New York Public News Network. Catherine, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And also joining us to help us understand how to protect ourselves from tick-borne illnesses and what we ought to know about them is Dr. Sarah Collins-McGowan, a pediatrician at Golisano Children's Hospital in UR Medicine. Dr. Collins-McGowan, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
So, Catherine, this started when you pulled a few ticks off your dog, right?
Yes, she's the main contributor to ticks in our home. And I had noticed she had a few ticks. And usually I try to write a story about tick season beginning every year. Just a good reminder to everyone coming out of the great winter that we have this other thing that we need to worry about for this time of year. And it was not that exciting to learn that we're not going to have such a good time this year with lots of ticks, and it's going to start earlier than other years.
Yeah, and so let's talk to Dr. Sarah Collins-McGowan about that. So, in general, Dr. Collins-McGowan, what do you want people to understand as we move into, I guess, what we would call tick season? What's an overview you'd give us for kind of keeping ourselves prepared for this, our families prepared, our dogs prepared, our kids prepared? What do you want us to know?
Yeah, I think that, with this news about tick season expecting to be worse than usual this year, everybody's maybe a little bit nervous about it. And so I think the biggest thing that I would want families to know is that even though ticks certainly can cause illness and that can be very dangerous, there are a lot of things that you can do to prevent tick bites. And there are a lot of things that you can do even after a tick has bitten you to prevent illness. And so that's something important to keep in mind.
Yeah, and Catherine, you've reported that, I mean, for people who assume we're coming out of this winter that was very cold and it hasn't been a particularly warm spring so far, that, well, it's probably going to be a late tick season. Were you surprised at what you found out in that regard?
I was a little surprised. I thought our suffering this winter would have some benefit to us this spring, but it was surprising. But at the same time, I've done some reporting about vectors of all kinds, ticks, mosquitoes, and how their presence is increasing because of climate change. On the whole, we're seeing more warmth during all times of year and more precipitation. And that is what ticks love. And so it's allowing them to move more north, different varieties of ticks, and to stick around longer in the seasons. So they're expanding the time they're around and their range.
And again, some of that data, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Tick Bite Tracker shows that emergency room visits for tick bites in April are the highest they've been this time of year since 2017. According to the data, the Northeast is seeing the highest rates of ER visits for tick bites in comparison to other parts of the country. So I'm going to start with Catherine's dog experience, and then I want to talk about how we handle these moments. But Catherine, as you say, dogs are kind of the primary vector for you. What have you learned about caring for your pets when it comes to ticks?
Well, my dog is very fluffy, so it's a little bit harder to spot them on her skin, but I see them crawling around on her. So I'll pull them off, and usually they haven't bitten her yet. So I'm able to kill them with either some dunking them in or leaving them in some rubbing alcohol or hydrogen peroxide, or even I seal them with tape and then throw that away, depending on what I have around. But I've learned just to, check her a couple times, like right after our walk outside, when we get back to the driveway, and then maybe a couple hours later, because they'll move around. Sometimes also if I sit next to her, they'll come off her and onto me, and then I can easily grab them and
You just
dispose of
see it
them.
happen?
Yeah, that's happened before.
Wow. You seem, sort of not carefree, but you're kind of laughing. That is to me, that's a scary moment. But this is where I should ask Dr. Sarah Collins McGowan, when people find a tick, whether you're pulling it off of yourself or a child, I think number one, they're asking, what do they do about that? And then number two, how often is that tick going to be carrying Lyme or something else? So can you take us through process there and what, first of all, what to do and then how to understand the risk there?
Yeah, I think most people would relate to your reaction of kind of feeling panic initially. And so, the first thing is just to stay calm. And I like to remind people that we're all carrying around, phones that have a ton of information all the time. And so if you find a tick, don't panic, look up exactly what to do, and it will kind of walk you through and just keep you calm. But you certainly want to do good tick checks, just like Catherine's doing on her dog. And you want to look in all of the spaces that ticks might hide. So when I think about kids, I think about checking things like their hair and their hairline, ears and around the ears, belly button, kind of all those spaces, and do a good visual check. And then if you do find a tick, you want to remove it. And the best way to do that is using a pair of tweezers if you have those at home. And you want to take the tweezers and you want to grasp the head of the tick if it's attached. You don't want to grasp the body. You don't want to bust that part of it. You want to grasp the head, and you just want to pull up, straight up, very kind of firmly and steadily until it releases. And then you can do just what Catherine does with the tick she finds too, put it in some rubbing alcohol or hydrogen peroxide to kill it at that point. What
If
you don't want to do, what's often around there, is things like, pouring rubbing alcohol on it, or putting Vaseline, or, sometimes people will talk about using a lit match near a tick. None of those things work. And certainly in the case of the lit match can be much more dangerous than the tick bite itself.
Yeah. So let's say you're using tweezers to remove and the tick, bursts, or in your words, you're not able to remove the tick in one whole piece. What do you do then?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, certainly sometimes parts of the mouth or the head may stay in the skin. And what's important to remember is that when you remove the body of the tick, it's no longer transmitting, it's no longer biting or able to do anything. So it may give you the creeps a little bit that there's still a part of the insect in your skin, but it's not actually going to cause you any harm at that point. So if it looks like you can pull out other parts that are still there with the tweezers, you can go ahead and do that. If you can't, if it's embedded there, your skin will actually just kind of push that forward, and over time it will come out, and you don't have to worry about further exposure at that point. Another good thing you want to do too, especially if you do accidentally, burst open the body, is just you want to wash it really well after you've removed the tick with good soap and water, and your hands as well. And then you want to put some antibiotic ointment on the bite as well. Just what you can get over the counter is fine.
Yeah, doctor, I think my son was 6 or 7. We had gone out for a long hike with friends. He had played basketball, and he was telling me he must have bumped his head because he had like a bump on his head, and I felt on his scalp, and it was a tick. And thanks to a friend who helped guide the steadiness of the tweezers, that tick came off in one piece. And I put it in a little plastic container to kind of keep the tick, not knowing what to do with it. I didn't know what to look for, and of course, I'm consulting with pediatricians at the time. It's years later. I don't remember exactly what I was looking for, but is there a physical sign? If say you keep the tick, you put it in a container, does it show up differently if it's carrying disease? Does it show up differently depending on other aspects? What am I looking for there?
Yeah, so the ticks that we worry most about in terms of what's causing disease are deer ticks, and those are small ones. So to the naked eye, they're about the size of a poppy seed, so visible but very small. And as they feed, they do engorge and get larger, and you can see them more easily. So as in terms of a visual cue, if it's engorged, if it's larger, that gives you some indication that it's probably been on the skin for longer. And so that can help you. But otherwise, there's really no way to kind of determine whether the tick is carrying disease or whether it's not. And one of the most important things that we use when we're seeing patients who've been bitten by ticks is how long we think that tick has been there. So it takes time for Lyme disease in particular, for the bacteria that cause Lyme disease to transmit from the tick to the human. And so if the tick has been attached for less than 36 hours, that we can reasonably assume there's very, very little, almost no risk of Lyme disease being transmitted in that time. If it's been longer than that, then there may be a higher chance, if that tick is carrying Lyme disease, of transmission. And that's where we might think about doing a preventive antibiotic or something like that to make sure that we're really minimizing the risk of Lyme disease.
Okay, and a lot of talk about Lyme, but we also want to listen to a comment from Dr. Aaron Strife, the St. Lawrence County Public Health Director, about other kinds of tick-borne illnesses. Let's listen.
We are seeing trends of more diagnoses of anaplasmosis, ehrlichiosis, and babesiosis, which are other tick-borne diseases.
Okay, so overall, doctor, how common are those things? And I mean, have you encountered non-Lyme tick-borne illness?
I have not seen it. Fortunately, they are still not very common in this area. Really, we're endemic for Lyme, and that's kind of the biggest thing we worry about. But I think, as that quote said, it's certainly something that we expect to increase with increasing tick season and spread. So it's certainly something that we are keeping an eye on.
Okay, so Catherine, everyone is hearing this and thinking about preventative steps. When you're out with the dogs, when you're just thinking in general, for people who have questions about going out with their kids, with their families, what should we know from your reporting about, prevention? Everybody's wondering about sprays and things like that. What should we do about that?
So when I've talked to healthcare professionals and public health officials, they say the best thing you can do is try to prevent tick bites from happening at all. And that means wearing an EPA approved insect repellent. And so that's something like DEET or picaridin. And you can find that on the back of an insect repellent, it should say, and the percentage amount. Or you can wear clothes that are actually treated with a chemical called permethrin, and that will help repel ticks from coming onto you or coming near you. And that's in some clothes you can purchase, or you can actually get, I believe you can get the spray and spray your clothes as well. And those are what I have found to be really good at preventing ticks from coming onto me at all. Just like wearing a little bug spray on your legs, or making sure you're wearing protective clothing, like your pants are tucked into your socks on a hike. You're wearing light color clothing on a hike so you can kind of see if there's anything on you. Wearing long sleeves, wearing a hat, those kinds of things.
Okay. Doctor, how do you feel about that advice? Anything you want to add, Dr. Collins-McGowan?
That's all spot on to what we tell families too. I think one of the questions that comes up is about those insect repellents and can you use them on children? And so I will say that both DEET and picaridin that were mentioned are approved down to 2 months of age. So you can actually use them on, on very small children. Obviously, you're going to do it in small amounts. You're just doing it on exposed skin. So hopefully most of what you've done is just cover up the skin to prevent any exposures or tick bites. But you can use that on even very young children.
And before we go here, we've been talking about ticks, but Catherine, I want to ask about some similar sort of developments happening for other insects, like mosquitoes, for instance, because your reporting to me is kind of interesting and mildly depressing in this way. Mosquitoes are getting better at handling cold, and we're having less cold to begin with. What does that mean for us?
It means that there will be more mosquitoes in the future coming after us, but we can also wear insect repellent to prevent them in that kind of way as well. But this is an effect of climate change. This is one of those impacts on our health that we'll see in the years to come as New York's climate gets warmer and wetter. These are the perfect environmental conditions for these kinds of critters to thrive and also be able to spread disease. And so it is sad, but there is a lot of hope too. Like there are more surveillance programs up where I am in the North Country that are getting developed so we can know what's out there. And so there are like hopeful moments of people figuring out ways to cope with it as well.
Well, you've done great reporting on this. One more question for Dr. Sarah Collins-McGowan, and we'll let you go, Doctor. For families who are hearing this and are understandably nervous about, especially kids picking up a tick, picking up disease or tick-borne illnesses, and kind of want to limit activity, don't want them outside, maybe don't want to send them to camps or on the fence about that. What would you say to those families, those parents who are nervous?
I would say certainly, talk with your healthcare provider, have a good conversation about what your specific situation is. But in general, we really want kids, parents, pediatricians, everybody want kids to be healthy and happy and be able to do all the activities that they should be doing. And there are ways that we can keep them safe outside. And so I think, thinking about that, kind of taking control of that so you can really keep your kids safe, but still allow them to go outside and have all those experiences is the right way to think about it.
Awesome stuff from Dr. Sarah Collins-McGowan, a pediatrician at Golisano Children's Hospital at UR Medicine. Doctor, thank you for making time for the program today.
Thanks very much. My pleasure.
Happy spring, and happy spring to Catherine Wheeler. Catherine, great reporting on this. We love what you do with the team at North Country Public Radio. A lot of love for you guys. Thanks for coming on the program here.
Thanks for having me.
We got more connections coming up on this Friday Roundup in just a moment. This is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson, and let me welcome my colleague Racquel Stephen, health equity and community reporter and producer for WXXI News. Happy Friday. Nice to see you.
Happy Friday, TGIF.
Well, it's good to have you. And we're also joined on the line by Stephanie Nichols, who is a cancer survivor, telling her story there. Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And the reason that Stephanie is with us is Racquel recently reported on a new University of Rochester Medical Center study about chemo brain. What'd you find out?
So chemo brain is what they call chemo brain is the side effect of chemotherapy, right? A lot of cancer patients experience some cognitive delays, whether it's attention, lack of attention, and just the inability to multitask and, brain fog. So University of Rochester did a study and found out exercise is great for chemo brain because we link chemo brain to inflammation. So exercise is great for inflammation. So they figured that exercise, put that equation together, exercise, chemo brain reduces inflammation, and it reduces chemo brain. And a new study showed that ibuprofen, a low dose of ibuprofen, also is good for inflammation, which also proves effective for chemo brain. Always doing things over at the University of Rochester. So, I looked deeper into that study. I spoke with one of the researchers, the lead researcher, Dr. Michelle Janelsons, and we spoke on how did we link this together, and it's linked to mainly inflammation.
Well, in a moment, we'll talk to Stephanie more about her experience. It's interesting, Racquel, because for people who have not gone through either cancer themselves, treatment, or don't have a close loved one who's gone through it, if you hear chemo brain, that is not a derogatory term.
Yeah.
And I think your reporting tells us it's a majority of patients who've gone through treatment have some kind of a symptom of brain fog or related memory
80%.
issue. 80%.
80%.
So it's not a derogatory term. It's reality for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And this is important work. So Stephanie Nichols is a cancer survivor. And Stephanie, I want to give you a little bit of space to tell your own story, and then we'll talk about sort of what you've experienced. But tell us a little bit about your own cancer story.
Sure. So I was diagnosed at the age of 36. It was 2022. I found my own lump and was able to get in with doctors. They moved me along pretty quickly in the process, and that was September of 22. In November, I had a single mastectomy. And then in January of 23, I had started my first round of chemo. My treatment was, because I was so young at the time, and they thought, let's give this like the most aggressive treatment plan we can put on it so that I can extend my life. So I did 4 rounds of dose-dense chemo. So some people are like, oh, yeah, I've done like 16 rounds, and I'm not taking away from that. That is a lot of time in the chemo chair. But for dose-dense rounds, it is very heavy and hard. And then after that, I did 22 rounds of radiation to round out my treatment. And even after that, then you're put on hormone therapy because my cancer feeds off of estrogen. So they want to block any way that my body can make those hormones. So even the medication that you then take after chemo has an effect on your brain. And the brain fog, I think, is the biggest symptom that I had when you think of chemo brain, and it's just like I'm just not as sharp as I know I once was. And I mentioned to Racquel that I have always prided myself on my memory, and it doesn't. Sometimes I'm like, did I already tell you this, or did I have this conversation in my head? And it's just hard to keep track of where did it go, and that could be aging, but I'm still in my 30s for another 29 days. So, yeah, that's been my experience on my first round, and I can say that unfortunately I did have a reoccurrence this past January. My cancer has spread to my spine, so going through all different types of treatments now to try and to eradicate this at this stage.
You talk about the dose dense, the 4 treatments there, and one of the things that I have learned in the last 5-6 years, watching loved ones go through different forms of cancer treatment, is the word chemo is a big broad category, and there's a lot of different kinds of chemo, and there's no chemo that's nothing. I mean, like, I'm not downplaying in the way that, but the dose dense stuff it's really tough. What were those days like for you? Can you describe that for people who don't know what that is like? Can you describe it?
Yeah, I will say it's very different than what you see on TV. I am someone that has been fortunate to not have anyone in my life directly impacted by cancer. So I've kind of been the family guinea pig to go through this. But really sitting in that chair receiving the treatment, there are a lot of pre-meds that they give you that help combat with any sort of allergic reaction. They give you nausea medicine that is in your IV bag that helps with those symptoms. So to be honest, the first few days after chemo, I'd say the first 2 to 3 days, are not actually that bad because you have so much medications that they're pumping into you at the same time as chemo. It's when you get to day 3, 4, 5, that first week, where all of those pre-meds, the steroids that they're giving you, are wearing off. And it's tough because there's things, like I said, I had the 4 rounds, but no round looked the same. There was different symptoms and side effects that popped up with each round. And I will say by the last one, it was tough. There were days when I felt like I couldn't get out of bed, or I had to pull myself up the stairs. And that's tough because I worked through my entire treatment. I am a mother of 2 young children. At the time, my kids were 3 and 5. So it is tough, but I will say it's not as I feel it's romanticized almost in a different way on TV and in movies. And there's been a lot of progress that has come along, and science of how can we make this better and easier for cancer patients.
I'm looking at a picture of Stephanie that, if you're watching on YouTube, you see her in a kayak. You're an active person.
Yes. I am.
Have you stayed active as much as possible, even through treatments, or what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I actually have become more active since I've been diagnosed. I grew up active and involved in sports, but it wasn't until my cancer diagnosis that I joined a gym. And that's because so much of the medication that I'm on, because I'm suppressing hormones, there's a negative impact to bone density. So being active and having that space to strengthen my body, and I'm also very into yoga. So having that spiritual connection, so I'm exercising my body, but also my spiritual body. And I do breath work and sound bathing and all sorts of things to just really keep a clear mind and to keep myself as healthy as I can.
And so, Racquel, the reporting from my colleague Racquel Stephen, as she mentioned, is that this new study indicates that one way to deal with chemo brain, the best you can, is to be active, that this exercise is not just good for your body, it is good for your mind. Is that a fair way to say it there, Racquel?
Yes, that's fair. And the researcher wanted to make it clear is not, it's low intensity exercises, right? Using resistant bands or just walking or not running a marathon. If you can, that's great. But something low intensity to get you out there, just to get your body moving.
Yeah, and not saying it's going to be the be-all, end-all, but for you, Stephanie, have you noticed any improvement with chemo brain? How are you doing with that?
So I've been out of chemo now for a couple of years, and I do think it gets better. I also think the chemo itself, right? It's destroying your good cells and bad cells, so that it is real. It's taking something away. But I also think like the further you get out from treatment, you're out of it, and you can kind of turn that part of your brain off from having to constantly worry about all the things. And I think you can start to find a little bit of normalcy. But I think exercise is so important. And like Racquel said, I'm not out there doing CrossFit, and it's actually not recommended for me with things that I'm doing. But it's getting out and moving your body and finding some time and space to just clear your mind, and you really do. You feel so much better about yourself after you do it. There are days when I don't want to do it, and I'll look at my watch and I'm like, oh my God, I've only walked like 500 steps today. It's like I need to get out and I do something, and you feel instantly better once you're doing it, and you're like, this is why I do it. And I know my body will thank me in the end when I'm in a spot where like, well, I'm glad I lifted those weights, or I got up and moved, because you need the strength when you're going through something heavy like this.
Well, Stephanie, before I let you go, I want to ask you one other thing about the way we can all show a little grace to people who've gone through chemo. Having someone very close to me who went through chemo who gets frustrated when she is reaching for a word that isn't there, or a phrase, or wondering why a name she can't remember, or just can't remember a fact about something that happened yesterday. And this isn't all the time, but it does happen. And I take your point. Like, we're all getting older. Everybody's getting older. So
that happens to me.
You're wondering, what is sort of the natural effect of aging. But people who've been through chemotherapy can be really frustrated when you know that, as sharp as you have felt mentally, that this is now inhibiting you in some way. How frustrating can that be? And what would you ask people around you to understand about that?
Yeah, it can be very frustrating. I can be on and I feel that it's more frustrating in like a work setting because of the position that I'm in. The way I want to show up is different than how I can show up sometimes. And that's because I will be thinking or trying to talk to someone, and it's like, I know this word, or I know this, you just told me this story, and I'm forgetting what you just told me. So I really think just patience when someone is trying to talk, and just give them grace, give them space to get to where they're trying to go with whatever they're trying to say or communicate, because it can be very frustrating. And then when that person is reflecting on it, it's like, oh, did I just make a fool of myself? Did I just, like, are they going to think that I'm dumb? Or there's a lot of, then you put that pressure back on yourself. And I think you have to give yourself grace, but I'm hoping that as people learn more about the effects of chemo brain, that they can also give some grace.
Well, Stephanie, here's to the best of luck to you going forward. I know you've been through a lot. You got a lot of people loving you and rooting for you, and I think people will show you the grace that you need. It's a really important lesson you're sharing with us today, and we appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Thank you. That's Stephanie Nichols, really powerful. She's a powerhouse of a person, and you can tell in just the conversation. Before we let Racquel go, I just want to emphasize again, we're talking about exercise because the study indicated there are potentially two ways that you, in sort of low-cost ways, that if you know someone going through chemo, that you can try to alleviate, not completely eliminate, the effects of chemo brain. Exercise was the biggest one, right?
Yes, exercise is the one.
That's
right?
the one.
That's the one that's most beneficial. But low dose of ibuprofen can help as well. They're still looking in the future. They're looking to see if combining both does make a difference, but as of right now, they haven't seen a difference of combining both. But exercise is the most beneficial.
I'm still waiting for the story where they're like, getting out and moving is bad for you. I mean, like, we got to move
Yes.
in this world, and it
Yes.
helps us in so many ways, and it's interesting to see how it helps people
Yes.
who've been through chemotherapy. Thank you for bringing the story to us.
Of course. Anytime. My pleasure.
Happy Friday, happy
Happy
weekend.
Friday.
That's Racquel Stephen, health, equity, and community reporter and producer for WXXI News. We're closing the week with a little celebration and talking about Garth Fagan next. This is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson, and we are closing the week with a celebration. A local and internationally acclaimed dance company is turning 55 this year. I'm talking about Garth Fagan Dance, and they have a lot to celebrate, but as our guest here will tell us, there's still a lot of work to be done. The company, like many other arts organizations, is navigating the effects of the federal government's DEI policies, and we're discussing how Garth Fagan Dance is addressing challenges, honoring its history, and looking at the future, all while creating new art. The executive director of Garth Fagan Dance is Natalie Rogers-Cropper, who's back with us here. Nice to see you. Thank you for being in the studio with us.
Nice to be back. It's been quite a few years.
So it's great to have you. And Garth himself is turning 86 this year.
Yes, he is.
And, we've had great conversations with Garth over the years. So just for the community who just wants to know how he's doing, can you give us a little update how Garth is doing?
Garth is decided to take a back seat. He's handed over the company to myself and Norwood Pennywell, the artistic director. So he's at his leisure. He comes in, he sees a show, he makes a comment, and then he's good. So it's been really lovely that he can now enjoy himself and just relax. He still wants to be knowledgeable about what's going on, which is great. So we fill him in on everything we're doing.
How long have you worked with Garth?
I came in 1989. Do the math. I can't think right now.
37 years.
37 years with Garth. And it was an instant love affair. I adored the company immediately. And he's met me and said, okay, you're coming to Rochester. And I went, okay, no argument there. So it's been a while, but working so closely with him as his assistant with Norwood Pennywell, as his bodies when he choreographed, that was special. And that gave us a whole new insight into who he was and what he was doing. And I think that's what we're now it's coming to fruition now. This is what he taught us. This is how we are now.
Certainly his name, of course, is he's a luminary in the field. But you are a Bessie Award winner. You've worked on projects like The Lion King, very high-profile stuff over the years, and you've achieved a great deal yourself. And it's interesting to hear this story of, Garth meets you and he's going, well, you're coming to Rochester. I don't know how many people in the artistic field who aren't from Rochester would say to themselves, well, sometime I'm going to go live in Rochester, New York. But here you are. And do you look back and have any sort of bemusement? I hope no regrets. How are you feeling about it?
No regrets at all, I can tell you. He met me at a point when I was disillusioned with modern dance. I felt I wasn't finding the company that I felt I would give my heart and soul to. So I just went to hang out with my sister in Houston and have a good time, which is what I was doing, not really dancing. And Garth met me, and all that changed. He said, no, you're still young enough to do this. And I went, okay, I'm coming. And he was right. This is what I had always dreamed of doing. This is how I dreamed of moving, but I didn't know it until I saw the company.
What about it in the field was disillusioning you at the time, and why has that changed?
Yeah, choreographically, the art forms were sort of redundant. I didn't feel they were giving humanistic messages that I could relate to and that I could say, I want to express that. It was sort of, some of it was indulgent. Some of it was so abstract, they weren't human anymore. So I was having problems with really accepting what was out there, and this was in the 80s, as something that I wanted to do. And here comes Garth with his expressiveness and his passion and his human quality. And I went, this is perfect. It's what I've been looking for. And I was always that kind of dancer to begin with. So I needed something that had heart and soul more than commercial stuff,
Well, there is an event tonight. There's a gala tonight.
Yep.
And first of all, let's talk about what's happening there. What's happening tonight?
A party. We're going to toast Garth's birthday. We're going to show a little bit of the performing. We will have a season at Nazareth University next week, beginning on Thursday. So we're giving a sneak preview of that. Plus, we have a silent auction with all these artists who gave us stuff that we're going to have a silent auction on. And these are artists that have loved and supported us forever. Steve Labuzetta and Bill Stewart, who's passed away, big friends of Garth. And also Olivia Kim, who did beautiful Frederick Douglass sculpture at the airport. So they've donated these beautiful pieces of art that we're going to hopefully make money on. And then the dinner and the partying and the
Are you all sold
love.
out tonight?
We are.
You are sold. That's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem.
And
yeah.
then, but I imagine there's plenty of space for the public to see you starting next Thursday.
Yes.
So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Tickets are available on Nazareth's events page, right?
Yes, correct. Mhm.
Okay. And and I'm told that if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see a video here, and Natalie's going to narrate a little bit of what we're going to see here. But even if you're not, if you're just hearing the audio form, this is a good chance to get inside the mind of Natalie as we talk about modern dance here. So let's go ahead and roll that, and let's talk about some of this. So go ahead, Natalie.
So this is my new work. I should preface this with the fact that Garth has allowed me to finally choreograph. This is my second work, and this is the last section called IRL. I've taken the word messages and taken it as text messages. So it's an abbreviation, but it means in real life. So I'm commenting on our current state of affairs here. And this is the end where I say, you know what? We're still here and we're still going to function and we're still going to be on balance, as you see. And the men are still going to be men and be strong. And you see them here just being a unit of men who are going to still function and be ready for society, regardless of what's hit us. Garth Fagan Dance has survived 11 presidents, and we'll survive this one too. So we are going to continue moving forward. And this is the section here that we're experiencing here. People functioning, keep going, celebrating life, being strong. Men are jumping, they're carrying on, they're saying, hey, come get us, we're here. This is the women here, and they are moving. See the men going across the back there? They are sort of infiltrating. You know how when women get together and then there's a bunch of men who say, hey, we want to be part of this somehow. But they exit. So they understand that that's not acceptable.
The men were trying to slide into the DMs in the back. I think they got rejected.
You got it.
Yeah,
They did.
Yeah.
And then the end here is just us forming a circle to cleanse the space and to make sure that we are still here. The two women have a duet, then they get together here at the end as well. But earlier on in the piece, there are 3 sections. The second section is a duet with them, kind of dark and sad, but also, they celebrate at the end here.
So you just gave us the insight into what the choreographer is trying to say with the art.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you expect the audience to understand that without your explanation, and how much do you want them trying to decipher what you are trying to say?
We are very open. A lot of our audience would appreciate us, particularly on an athletic level. They see the dancing, they go, I love what they're doing. It's okay if you don't know what's going on. This is impressionistic and interpretive dance. It's contemporary issues, but it's okay for you not to know. But it's not okay if you don't go home and think about it, if you don't try to figure out what's going on. We want our audiences to work and to say, I wonder what that was about. Did you notice that the man did this and the woman did that? Which is kind of why we encourage people to come back, because you would have missed half of the dance, and the next time you see it, you see the other half, and then you see something else that clicks in your head. So we do try, and all art is like this, by the way, not just dance. You need to go back and look at the art more than once. And then it dawns on you, he's talking about men, she's talking about women, or they're talking about the world, or they're talking about something else. That's what we want. We want the work to happen for the audiences in their hearts and in their minds, rather than, here it is on a silver platter. Then what good is that? It's not even challenging. We want you to come and be challenged. That's real art. That's what, and it's doing its job. That's what it's doing.
I suspect you don't even mind if someone is their interpretation is maybe not exactly where you were going, but
That
it's
is correct.
An interesting look at
Yes,
what they are
absolutely
seeing.
acceptable. If
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with what I just said, perfectly okay. Their experiences are part of the experience of art. So you bring to it what you know, what you've grown up with, and then you see it and you go, you know what? That reminded me of my childhood. I didn't know it was your childhood. It doesn't matter. It's that you experience something in that art form that it's important.
As an art creator, do you then, as an art consumer, if you're looking at a painting, if you're listening to music, do you find yourself trying to parse meaning and spending some time?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every single time. So it's interesting with me as because I'm Garth trained. Some things are just too flip or they're too superficial. So I just stop watching them. I just don't have that energy. So I save it for things that really challenge my mind and my brain. And that's kind of where I focus things on. Even movies. If it doesn't challenge me, then I'm okay, well, that was cute. I get bored. I just start looking at my phone as I watch the movie. And I know I'm not engaged. It's too easy. Give me something that give me some meat that I can hang on to.
We're talking to Natalie Rogers-Cropper, the executive director of Garth Fagan Dance. They're celebrating 55 years. And I'm going to take a little detour on two separate points here, because as we talk about the creation of art and the importance of spending some time with it, or as Natalie says, going back to it, maybe if it's dance, seeing it a second time and really pondering that. If it's a painting, spending some time with it, returning the next day, listening to music and asking how it makes you feel, asking maybe what the context is. I mean, that's a whole process of what art can do. Mm-hmm. And we're outsourcing a lot of creativity to sort of machines these days. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is kind of like the AI conversation that everyone is kind of getting tired of. But we
need another hour for that conversation.
Well, I love asking the luminaries, like, is there anything positive about AI in your world, or do you think, why are we doing this?
It's mostly why we're doing this.
Okay.
The AI is great for the office. I would say that, for the administrative part. But
sure, if they want to downsize.
I know. And that's what we don't want to do, actually, because the creative minds are important. The making decisions based on an experience of a human being is important in our field. So when I ask for ideas on things, the AI is not going to help me because it's a human craft that we're discussing here. On top of that, the people experiment with AI and choreography and so on. It's just limiting because part of being creative is there is a soul to you. And there is something that's unspoken, that's unexplained about the human body and the human person, the human existence that comes through creation. I have always felt that we are on this planet to continue the process of creation. This is why whatever made us put us here. So with that in mind, I tend to live that way, So I believe that the more we get away from the heart and soul of human beings, the less we can really express effectively. Now, I'm not saying there might be bells and whistles out there that'll be impressive. Yeah, of course. But ultimately, for my mind, it's about how did I feel? What did I see? Can I learn from this?
Yeah.
What did I learn about human beings? That's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in buildings.
Yeah,
and,
I'm with you there. And the thing that surprises me is that 2-3 years ago, when I started to see AI writing in a lot of places, so whether that was in an email to me or a press release or things like that, I thought, look, it's going to be pretty easy to discern. But anyway, people aren't going to want to consume a lot of AI art because people understand that art is a distinctly human thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want some sort of algorithm figuring out how to create a dance choreography or a painting or a song. And I was wrong about that. There's a lot of people, it's normalizing so much quicker than I would have expected. And people are just either tolerating it or even consuming it intentionally, music, things like that. And I'm naive. I thought we wouldn't choose that.
Right.
Are you worried about that? What that portends?
Yes, I am. And I'll tell you why. I don't mind things coexisting. That's how the planet has been. It's when you erase something completely, in favor of another. This is where I have a problem. So we have our people, our techies who love AI, and then we'll have our whole population that doesn't. It's okay to coexist, but when one starts to demand that the other leave, I'm not interested in that. I will keep doing art the way I see it, and they'll keep doing their art, and there'll always be people who will love or hate. That's okay. That's why we are here, But I just question when you draw funding away from one to give to the other, or you somehow demand that particular art form has no place in the entire country or in the society or in the community. These are problems that I have with, because people are trying to find that creative niche. And if you don't allow them to, and it can fail miserably, and you just go, oh, okay, that didn't work, let me try something else. But if you negate it right away without ever having to absorb it in any form, this is where I have those problems.
You're right. This is a whole other hour. But I'm glad to get inside your mind on this.
Yep.
Your company has had to navigate changes stemming from the Trump administration's executive orders on DEI. Mm-hmm. How?
Well, mostly grant writing. We've had to change our language. Now, those of you who don't know that Garth Fagan Dance started as a company predominantly of color, led by people of color. This is an interesting one for me because I'm also insisting the grant writing process. I have grant writers, but I give them the language. So in order to not use the word black, in order to not use African American, these are things that bother me greatly because that's who we are. However, we've had to pull that back and just say, for kids, for example, we are targeting kids of color. We are targeting the underserved. We have to take out the black part and put underserved, things like that. Which is, it's still true that that's who we serve. But, honestly, I feel that's a step back. We want to be able to be free to express who we are. We are a modern dance company. That is what we do. We just happen to be people of color. That's not our primary goal. It's that we just who we are. That's it. There's nothing to say about that other than watch our art. That's what we ask you to do.
Why do you think the Trump administration is flagging grants that mention racial diversity?
I'm not certain. There's a history going back to, in this country, going way, way back. When you attempt to create a culture that omits any other culture, then you're talking about a specific type of place. And studying history here, as I had to, interestingly enough, being from Trinidad and Tobago, we had to study American history at length. Okay. So I figured out that, oh my gosh, that's how they became the United States, the slave trade, and then went into civil rights and so on. We had to learn all this. And I now see the connection that it's troubling, of course, for me, because it's becoming a place where I feel not accepted. And then also as a citizen who was an immigrant, 40 years ago or so, it's bothering to see how the immigration is coming into play as well, when we are a clear indication that the success of putting an immigrant into this society to become an American creates this beautiful art form and company, which is 100% American. This is who we are, you see? So it's not a good thing to happen. It really isn't. It takes us into a place where we are no longer celebrating real excellence. We're not allowed to go anywhere except in this one little path. And that's bothering. It's limiting.
Well, let's spend our last 45 seconds on the celebration. So,
Yes,
again, the gala tonight is sold out. That's a big event for them. 4 performances at Nazareth University next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, May 7th through the 10th. What else do you want to leave with the public as they think about 55 years of Garth Fagan Dance?
Come celebrate Garth's work, Norwood Pennywell's work, and my work. So you're going to see the original. Then you're going to see who he taught. Then you're going to see his newbie, which would be me. So you have a whole linear thing. The whole show is a history lesson on this company. And that's beautiful to watch. So people will be encouraged. We're still here. We're still going to continue because we have new blood now that Garth has sanctioned himself. So it's exciting. We can't wait for the public to see it. Beautiful dancers too, by the way.
Congratulations on the season and 55 years of Garth Fagan Dance, and on your success as well. It's nice to talk to you here, and we appreciate you coming in here.
Absolutely.
Natalie Rogers-Cropper, Executive Director of Garth Fagan Dance here. What a way to end the week. And from all of us at Connections, thank you for finding us on these various platforms. Have a wonderful weekend, and we are back with you next week on member-supported public media.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.